Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. I know a lot of our listeners have experienced the excitement of going to maybe a new restaurant or a new place, and then you get there and there's a step up or there's some stairs down and you can't get into the building. So that's a really huge letdown and part of life for somebody who uses a wheelchair or has a mobility impairment. Today we're talking to Roll Mobility. It's kind of like a Yelp for mobility impairment, and it can give that information that we need to know to be able to go to that new restaurant or carry on with whatever we're doing. So Rachel and Joe, you guys are here to talk to us about Roll Mobility, and we're excited to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Excited to be here.
So first of all, can you guys each explain, your role at Roll Mobility and maybe if there's a personal connection to this issue?
Yeah, you bet. One of the co-founders. We're a small team of 5, and I primarily work on our communications. I run our social and our newsletter and trying to get the word out kind of in a less polished press release kind of manner. Mm-hmm. It's personal for me. In 2019, I sustained a traumatic accident and with that a spinal cord injury, and I'm now primarily a wheelchair user. So that's exactly what you said when you opened up, is that it is really hard and exhausting to do the research of going to a new place and getting there only to be let down.
And Joe?
I am one of the co-founders. We were, just saw that there was a need and started putting things together, and thankfully found people like Rachel who helped us from making huge mistakes and pushing in the wrong direction. And so just saw how important and how necessary it was and started building it from there.
So, Joe, I got a question for you right out the gate. Are you a wheelchair user or have other limitations?
I am not. I am
totally able-bodied, normal human being. I love it. I know that's what you were going to say, which is fine. So my question for you, Joe, you said you and your co-founders discovered their need. I'm curious how you've identified it as a need for yourself. Because I feel like most people, you just don't think about some things. Not you as in Joe, but in general.
Yeah, and I like you had normal in quotes, which is about perfect.
I would not describe Joe as normal, but go on.
Thankfully, it's a podcast. People can't see me, so it'll be easier for the people who watch the video to see how not normal I am. But I have been very, very lucky and been very privileged to work with DSUSA and work with some other amazing coaches for U.S. Paralympic and U.S. Biathlon. And we tried to take some athletes out to dinner, and we found 4 places and picked a place that we thought would be accessible. And I said to them, this never happens to you at home, right? And all of them just laughed at me and said, no, this happens everywhere all the time. And so just in talking to other people, and we put together some focus groups and looked to see what people would want and talk to athletes, and Roll is kind of the culmination of their efforts. And I happen to be in the right place at the right time, and thankful to have the opportunity to create a tool and try to build community within a group that really knows what they need and is experts in their own needs and their own idiosyncrasies for whatever their level of mobility is.
So this concept that we're talking about, kind of rating places and giving them reviews based on accessibility, I swear I've talked to my friends with disabilities about this, and you guys have probably talked so many times And so I guess my question is, how did it turn from an idea, a thing you were talking about, to actually trying to implement it and being like, hey, this could actually be a thing?
At the very, very beginning, it was literally I went and sat down with one of our other co-founders, Shane, who ran a company that does software development and design. And we sat there and I kind of went through it with him, and he said, yeah, I think this is a good idea, but this must exist already.
Right.
And it can't be that important. And he called me less than 48 hours later and said, I've been out downtown on a pub crawl, and for the first time, I have started looking at locations based on accessibility, and it is everywhere. This is so necessary. This is so needed. And that was enough for us at that time to just start putting it together. And I think, as Rachel can attest, we just became a team of 5, and everybody that we have kind of talked to has said, I've really wanted to do this and haven't been in the right spot at the right time to make it happen. And we just happened to be, kind of a culmination of a bunch of different things coming together, all at the right moments in space.
So tell us about the app, about the program. How does it work for a user?
Well, so the app works worldwide, no matter where you are, but all of our data is user driven, which is an important part. I think there are, maybe other efforts happening, but you just can't scrape the internet for this kind of data. You just can't trust that businesses are know even what to look for, right? Without even putting their own self-interest first. And so in the app, you can either search by location near you, search, just similar to Yelp, search for a coffee shop, search for a pizza joint. And either if it's been rated near you already, that data will pull, or if you're going to a new place that's not yet on the map, the app takes you through a series of questions, depending on the type of location, and generates a weighted score based on the objective checkpoints that we're looking for.
So talk a little more, I guess, about how the data is actually generated. It's from people using it and making reviews, right?
Yeah, so all from our users. Everything that we've grown to be today has just come from the strong community that we're building. People that either immediately have the need and see the need for something like this, or that people by proxy are, just immediately, like Joe said, Shane, once the light bulb clicked for him, was like, oh, wow, this is so important. And I realize, even as somebody who has no mobility issue, that this could affect me, and that this needs to be done. So the data does all come from anybody in our community that's using it. Yeah.
So what is the uptake, or how many people have used this so far? How many reviews do you have? Is that building momentum? Where do we stand right now?
We've got over 2,000 people using the app currently across a host of different countries. We've just picked up a bunch of users in New Zealand and Australia, which was very exciting for us. We on average are having people leave reviews for about 25 to 50 new locations every week. And that number has steadily grown as we're getting more users. I think one of the metrics that we've really been interested in is the people that we have using the app have been very engaged and are using it quite a bit. So we're having people open the app quite frequently and search new locations and look at new things and leave reviews. One of the things that we just implemented about a month ago was the ability to also leave picture and video. And so now if you see, a sidewalk that is destroyed in a section, or something that isn't working for you, you can actually take a picture of that and flag it on the map and drop it directly wherever it needs to be to warn other people that they might have issues here. We also have the ability to add parking reviews, so you can tag the physical location of parking. So if you're especially in a crowded downtown area, if there's a parking spot that's a couple blocks over or in a parking lot, then you can tag those locations so that it's real easy to get around.
That's wonderful.
I imagine for people like Kyle and I use a walker. Kyle's in a wheelchair. I use wheelchairs every now and then. People in our position, Rachel as well, it's easy to find people that are all about it. Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's help. Let's review. Let's leave a photo. But I'm curious, there probably has to be some barriers or challenges you're up against. Can you share what any of those might be?
Some of the things that are wonderful and unique, but also can be like difficult about the disabled community at large is that we are so fractured, and with good historical reason, and with, for the same reason I've got you two dudes are sitting here and you friends with the same diagnosis, right? Most of my friends are paras with spinal cord injuries. We have a tendency to just gravitate towards likeness and what we know. And so how to meet the needs of many, how to expand, down the road, maybe if we're looking outside of just mobility issues and that kind of information that we want to be able to share and exchange on the app. It's just been a hard group to gather all in one spot and say, hey, we're doing this thing. Are you in? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that thing where everyone thinks of the idea and figures somebody else will do it, and then the ball drops, right? And I think can be a community thing too, with the whole disability community.
Definitely. I think there's some other groups out there trying to do similar but different things, and it's in part for myself as just a disabled person, I'm like, ooh, yes, all the efforts in one place. But also as a person who's a part of this company, I think, well, what? Don't disabled people deserve options? We're all going to present, right? Like that we all just have to do it one way and think one way. Isn't it great that like there's enough of a market for us to like we share and exchange our data in a way that works and makes sense for some people and maybe not for others, and that's okay. I think it's a great thing to have multiple minds solving the same problem.
You make a good point, because I imagine we have all seen a business establishment's definition of accessible would not necessarily match my definition of accessible or somebody else's.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a definition, but need. It doesn't meet the need.
Yeah. Some of the language we use a lot is like, what are the bare minimums? Could I get in the building? Yes, check. But what is it that really made a space feel welcoming? What tells me that my needs were really thought of before I got there? Maybe it's the fact that every door has an automated opener. Maybe it's the fact that the bathroom was meticulously thought out. The doors work the right direction. The sink is in roll under, or the paper towels are down low. Just those little subtle things. Maybe it's even like a low register. Myself, I'm also a member of the LGBTQ community, and I love to do my business with people within that community because they're thinking of our needs. And likewise goes for the disabled community. I want to do business with people who are really seeing us, hearing us, and implementing the changes.
Being proactive.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's an end goal or objective for mobility?
For us, we really feel like there is a way for us to, in a classy way, in a seamless way, integrate some type of advertising. And our hope is that we'll give people an opportunity, people that really care about this community in a good way, and also care about mobility and are really interested in, taking care of the needs of this community.
I would think if I were a business owner, think restaurant or bar, and I was proactive and I knew I had space and I had low countertops and push button doors and all the, I would want to advertise, because I would want all 200 wheelchair users in my city to know that they're welcome, but also I would want their money. I want their business.
at the end of the day, we still bow to the gods of capitalism, right?
Yeah.
It's good business. It's good business to be inclusive. Absolutely. And we'd love to be doing good business with those businesses who care. While we are open and seeking funding, that we will run ads that, I mean, hopefully feel a little more curated than some of the bombardment that we get on the rest of the internet, right?
Sure.
Because I don't know, this is a community that's been burned many times.
Yep.
And we want to always make sure that we're listening and incorporating, measures that show that we're listening.
Do you foresee potential advertisers being a little bit self-selecting as more, more altruistic maybe than a lot of the other advertisement that we hate?
Right. Yes and no, right? Because if maybe if there's like some big corporations out there that we know that are just giving us lip service, maybe we know right off the bat this isn't somebody we want to do business with. But within our small communities, even here, we're Denver based, but we have some really strong relationships with businesses throughout the area. I would hope that they, would want to in turn partner with us and continue to be good community partners. I think, but I think once in the last so many years, five plus years, the online community, especially for disabled voices, has given such a rise for vocalization and visibility in a way that this community hasn't been listened to as loudly before. And when I would hope that somebody's going to get smart and look at the numbers and say, hey, in America, nearly 1 in 8 people has some kind of mobility issue. At the end of the day, this is good business.
Yeah.
I hope that we're in a place where we're having to turn advertisers away. That would be great, where we could be that final say, right?
Yeah.
You make a good point. 1 in 8. That one person still needs to go get gas. They still need to go out to eat. They still want to go see a movie every now and then. They might want to go to a bar or a club. Or just go to the grocery store, or all these different things that not only some things. Sure, we want to go see a movie, but we also need to go buy milk and eggs. Like there's a good hybrid or a balance of everything, things that we need and things that we want, and all of it makes a difference in our life if it's something we can do without having to think about it, or whether we have to plan out 2 errands and kill 3 hours because it's an uphill battle for a wheelchair user or some other mobile disability.
On an infinite timeline, we all wind up disabled. We all have the need for this.
Yeah, you may not need it right now, but hopefully the day comes where you are 85 and you can't pick up your feet the way you used to, or do things that you used to.
Rachel, you alluded to something earlier that we've talked about before on the podcast, is that accessibility is good for everyone. I mean,
yes,
you there's the example of the curb cut. Well, that's good for a person making a delivery, for a mom pushing a stroller, for a person in a wheelchair. For everyone, it's a good thing. And mobility just makes things work better for everyone.
Absolutely. We all benefit from accessible design. And that's one of the things that the selling points I always love to talk about with the app, is that because our questions are arranged to guide you through what makes a place accessible or not, you don't have to be a person with a mobility issue to know what's accessible or not. You can follow the prompts and learn, and you're raising your own social awareness as we go along. I think that's something. I traveled with my wife this summer to Greece, and arguably Greece is less accessible in some ways than in the United States, but in other ways really far ahead. And that happens with social change. And I think that's something I really hope that our app can do, is create that here in the States. Is that, I would come up to a place in Greece and they know they're not accessible, But before I even have a chance to think for myself, they have a plan in action. I'm not the first time they've seen a wheelchair. They're not afraid to tell me like, hey, we're gonna have to problem solve to get you in here, but we want you here. Or the fact that all the museums and all these other public institutions are free to people with disabilities. Little things that go a little extra way that say our society cares and values for this part of our society, for the disabled members of our community, right? So
that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I hope so.
I love hearing about a free museum, or in California where I'm at, parking on the city street downtown. You don't have to pay for that if you have a disabled placard. And it's little things like that sure, there's a little bit of perk to that challenging piece of life. But I'm always thinking about a comment I heard just a couple weeks ago. It's always more expensive to be disabled. So if the city can help me save a couple dollars just from not having to put quarters in the meter to help make up for a need to have somebody come into my home to clean my house because I can't do it myself, or my need to have somebody come in and care for me 3 times a week because I can't do it myself. Like,
Right.
It's just a few parking dollars, but man, it makes such a big difference.
But it's not just money, right?
Sure.
It's energy. It's my mental capacity, my
It's how you
emotional
feel.
capacity.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a cost on all of those levels. It's having to do extra research to find out where you can go. It's, anytime I can skip a tape, like you're here to join at our restaurant, why don't we skip you to the front of the line? Well, that 20-30 minutes back, like, man, I can look at that and say, I spent 6 hours in the bathroom this week.
Yeah.
I'm glad to like have less waiting time, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Get a little of that time back. That's really important. Yeah.
Kind of a random side note, you made the point that accessibility is good for everybody. And I just started thinking, we've all been there, right, Rachel? I assume we have been, even though your injury is 5 years now. You go into a bathroom and somebody, seemingly able-bodied, is tying up the one and only stall that is safe for you to use. And sure, we get frustrated, we might vent or make a comment. And on the flip side, I've never seen anybody get mad that somebody else was using a regular stall. So, in other words, accessibility does serve everybody because nobody ever gets mad when regular parking spots are taken. They might be, I gotta go park in the back, but they're not mad at anybody. They're not offended.
Yeah.
But in our world, that one little stall or that few disabled parking options are often tied up or blocked by somebody they shouldn't be, and it's like infuriating in a sense.
My favorite move is to then just pull into the stall next to them and block them in with my chair outside. But I think, and I read a lot of comment sections, and especially around the bathrooms and some of the parking spot, we'll hear voices from people with invisible disabilities. And it's always good to just listen to both sides of that conversation.
Sure. Absolutely.
But for me, it takes me back to the societal piece, because if we were thinking about everybody's needs, it's not the space that a person maybe with an invisible disability needs, it's the grab bars. Well, how hard would it be just to put grab bars in every single stall?
For sure. Yeah.
And leave the large stall for somebody who needs the space? So we're trying to, I don't know, I think we're looking at the argument differently, and it's not advantageous within the disabled community for us to be arguing within ourselves. Yeah. We need to be advocating, together as best we can at every turn.
I feel like maybe Colin and I have talked about this before, but I imagine it would be so much cheaper for a building to just add 8 grab bars as they're being built than to go back 10 years from now and try to install and find the beams and where do I put these and reinforce those handrails, and it'd just be smarter on the front side.
Absolutely. But that's the problem, right? In America, it's always an afterthought.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys bringing light to this subject. You know, one of the things that we've been talking about recently is advocacy is like going out in the world and just doing what needs to be done and maybe discovering an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think your app really encourages people to get out, to find out those things that need to be resolved so that we can resolve those and everyone can do what they need to do.
You know, there's this graphic that I've seen floating on the internet that it's like, well, we don't see disabled people out in society, so we don't accommodate for their needs. So we haven't accommodated for their needs, so they can't visit our establishment. So we don't see them out in society. So we're decreasing the barriers for people getting out. We're hopefully improving mental health, but we're also showing the rest of the world that, hey, we're 1 in 8.
Yeah.
It's 12% of the population, and we're here, and we want to be out. We want to be included, and we've got business. We've got dollars to spend too, right? Yeah.
So 2 things before we let you go. Can you tell our listeners, 1, how can we help? 2, how can we use your app? What do we need to do?
Our number one ask right now is just to share the app, download the app with as many people as possible. Every download, every review. I think I listened to one of your podcasts earlier today. You were talking about, eating the elephant one bite at a time. And it really is. We're taking this down one review at a time. So every download, every share, every review really helps. It helps the community and it helps us grow so that hopefully that we're able to just keep expanding our outreach at an even faster rate. And then to download, you can either visit rollmobility.com or we're available free on either iOS and Android. Roll Mobility.
As a able-bodied person, is that this app is for everybody. We really work to remove all of the barriers. We've tried to make it so that the information that people are looking for, you don't have to know what that information is. If you are an ally, if you're a caregiver, if you understand that there's a need, we've done what we can to take care of the rest so that you can have confidence that the reviews that you're leaving give the information that people need. And so we really tried to take out the barriers to entry and make sure that anyone can leave a review. An 8-year-old can leave a review that is just as good as the review that somebody else leaves. So the more information that is there, the more likely it is to get people out into the world and moving around. And then my one other plug is if people are in Denver, we have an event coming up with a place called Denver Pub Crawl. We did one before in the fall in conjunction with Datability. And we took over the streets downtown. We had, 25 people.
It's closer to 40.
We had at least 25 people, I think, in wheelchairs out in downtown Denver. And it was just really awesome. I think you guys spoke to it beautifully, that sometimes just being outside and being, seen is advocacy. Yeah, totally. So awesome. If people are around, we'll have on our social media accounts, we'll be starting to promote that. Or if people want to sign up, please come and join us and have fun with us.
Well, obviously you guys have a lot going on and you're doing some pretty cool stuff. We appreciate you being a part today and sharing all about your perspective on the world and of course what you're doing with the Roll Mobility app. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This show is possible with your support. Visit twodisableddudes.com to stay connected.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player.